Okay, looks like we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the workshop series for BUIDL Battle. That is the Stacks Hackathon, currently live on DoraHacks. I'm James from the DoraHacks operations team. Really glad to be joined by WoBuddy and Publius from AIBTC team. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Go ahead. I think we're just both really excited with everything going on. Like this has been such a fun project to work on, and we're excited to get everybody into it and share more about it. So let's rock it.
Yeah, it's super good to have all these workshops really guiding everyone through the onboarding process for the hackathon. We've got 12 days left, so make sure you're registered on the hackathon page, and we'll be uploading this to the stream afterwards, to the page afterwards if you want to catch up afterwards. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to the guys from AIBTC. But if you have any questions, unfortunately, we're not taking live questions for this stream through YouTube, but you can head over to the Telegram group, which is linked to on the hackathon page on DoraHacks, and ask any questions in there now or after the stream. So go ahead and make sure your questions are answered. But yeah, over to you guys.
Awesome. Well, to kick things off, I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are and kind of where this all started. But if you don't mind, let's go ahead and bring up the screen, and we'll go through some different tabs and some different things live here as we're talking about it. But if you've been with us, or if you've seen what we're doing, we're a working group, or that's how we started just over a year ago, looking at this intersection of Bitcoin and AI, and what the powerful kind of outcomes we could generate from these two technologies working together. I will say 1 year later, looking back at some of those early ideas, we've come so far, and I'm excited to share both what we've been able to do up until now and what we would love to continue building on together. So everything we're doing here is very experimental. It's kind of brand new in two different ways, and we took those two things to make something else even more unique and special. But it's fun, and it's really cool to get into, and I can't wait to share some more with you. So up on the screen, basic background. As a working group, we still do meet every Thursday at 9 a.m. PST, and we get together and we talk about the progress that we've made over the week and what we're building and what's coming next. So if you've been to our website, or if you've seen any of our information or anything else, our vision is really this idea of like AI-powered agents that operate Bitcoin-backed DAOs. I mean, this like goal of fully autonomous governance. So we have some DAOs. If you've seen the website, we have the ability, we have DAOs that are listed. You're able to chat with an agent and do some interactions and set up some agents. And we have a few other resources too that I want to share first, just to kind of go through before we dive into these different pieces and what's going on. But our goal as a working group and as the people here who are bringing all of this out and together is really just to elevate human potential through AI on Bitcoin. Because this is the first time that we've had the opportunity to take processes that were either really complicated or really time consuming and change and operate them in new and special ways. So I feel like that's a very generic description. So I could probably get a little better into some of this information if I go into the why. But just to share those resources. So if you've seen us around, we have the main website, aibtc.dev, with some updates coming there soon. We have our Twitter account here, so the x.com aibtcdev, matching name. We have a service called Prompt to DAO, which is really fascinating. So if you look historically, you would prompt this with an idea, and it's going to go through and create that DAO and put it all together on chain for you. This is currently paused, but this was where we saw a lot of interest in the idea, and we can't wait to turn it back on following the first new version of the DAO going on mainnet. And then we also have our GitHub and other resources. So everything we're doing out in the public. We've done it as a working group, and we continue working here. So tons of things available here, and also some related documentation. So lots of pieces. We'll definitely share these links back in the Telegram group. No need to worry about what to grab where. We'll be able to put it all together. And if you remember the documentation website, the docs.aibtc.dev here, then you'll see we've got links to everything else there. That's kind of a good starting point if you just need one to go to. Awesome. Well, instead of reading the docs or doing anything else, I'd actually like to just tell you a little bit about why we think this is such a big deal. You know, AI, what we're seeing and what we've seen over the last year is it's not going to move at the speed of Bitcoin. And actually, let me take a step back. When we're talking about AI agents, right? Like one way that we really like to visualize this idea is like having small employees or individuals that you could task and say, here's your description. This is who you are. This is the task that you complete. And these are the tools that you're able to use to complete the task. So pretty much the same setup you would have if you're going to give somebody agency to be able to act on your behalf, right? Like if I'm running a company or even if I'm doing something at home, if I want you to do the task instead of me, these are the basic elements that you need. Great. So that's where AI agents come in. That's where they can do a lot of cool stuff because we can define them, we can give them purpose, and we can review the work that they do. So that's already a huge capability. That's pretty cool. Now, when we talk about those agents, we know that at some point they're going to have financial interactions, right? Like if I want to access something, sometimes I need to pay for it. Maybe I'm looking at different things that are possible between A and B, and it's like, how do I do a swap? Or maybe I'm doing arbitrage, or maybe I'm just looking at on-chain data. And the key there is that AI is going to AI is going to really change how a lot of this is working. And we see it needing a bank account. We need it seeing some kind of way to make transactions and to operate and to do everything else. Cool. So when we're looking at that, when we're trying to figure out what crypto makes the most sense for AI, and our bet is that it's Bitcoin. You have Bitcoin offering this robust base layer for security. It's been around, and like if you want something that is sound and known good, then we know Bitcoin is good. And we like that, but it lacks the native smart contracts. And as I was getting to in the beginning, it doesn't move really fast. Like AI really isn't a good match for the speed of Bitcoin. Having to send a transaction, wait 10 to 60 minutes, and then have it confirm, it takes quite a while. And that's where we think that leveraging something like a Bitcoin L2 is going to provide the infrastructure and the ability to do so much more with Bitcoin, and also to give our agents the chance to do a lot more than what would have originally been possible. So us as a working group, and a lot of what you see in the content that I'm showing and across what we have on the GitHub and everything else here, is all of the infrastructure that we were looking to build to help bring these ideas online. We have the front end and back end tooling for the website and what you see with the analysis. We have the smart contracts that power the DAOs, a lot of different elements that come together to sort of form this picture. And it so far has proven to be not only extremely powerful, but just kind of this paradigm shift in the way that we operate in computing, right? Like I think that this breakthrough of what we're doing with artificial intelligence and the way we're talking about agents and the way things are developing so quickly is just as big of a paradigm shift as search was to the internet, maybe even bigger, because it's going to change the way that we interact with our devices and with our technology. And I just see it as a big add in our lives as it continues to get better and do more. Cool. So that tells you a little bit about who we are, why we believe in this, and what a quick little overview of what we've been building. I did want to talk a little bit about what sits underneath our architecture before we dive too deep into it. So starting out, we can get into the technical foundation a little bit. When we're looking at Bitcoin L2s, like I mentioned earlier, we are a big fan of stacks. So stacks, you get the programmable Bitcoin with 100% of Bitcoin's finality. You get fast transactions and smart contracts in the Clarity language. And you get direct access to Bitcoin state. So you can like verify if a transaction was mined and do some other really interesting things from the on-chain perspective. So that gives you that power to really enhance that connection between Bitcoin and stacks when you need it. Same with the smart contract language, Clarity. Now, this is how we write our contracts in stacks. And it brings smart contracts to Bitcoin. So it's like much more expressive and enables a lot more than Bitcoin script. It is a decidable language, so you know exactly what the program will do, and it's interpreted, not compiled, which means the source code, the actual code that's being run, is published right there on the blockchain and available. So we believe it's a safe way to build complex smart contracts for Bitcoin. Wrapping those two together, when we're talking about stacks and clarity, why do we want to do DAOs with AI? Well, a DAO in itself is really a strong structure for shared resources, right? Like you have a group of people that want to work together, and you want to define the terms through which they can work together and achieve a goal. In typical Web 2 land, you're going to have handshakes and deals and trust assumptions and everything else. In our lovely Web 3 contract world, we can operate with code as law. We can use smart contracts to define those governance rules and to create a situation where everybody has to work together toward a goal. So pretty powerful element, but one of the main issues with this is actually a human issue. It's fatigue. So, you know, if you're a part of a DAO, or if you could imagine being a part of 5 or 10 or 20 DAOs, eventually you're going to be overwhelmed with the number of decisions and votes and things you're going to have to do to help the DAO operate. So what we believe is that AI agents solve this large problem that DAOs have with governance fatigue, because you can program them to operate 24/7 or to react to certain events or to do other things. So we can compress that timeline of what was traditionally a 1 to 2 week process in a DAO to days, and maybe even further, and increase the frequency of voting and increase the big things that we can do, like as far as working together and achieving goals, all while allowing people to get more done. So I think that's a pretty cool point at the intersection, where one of the major problems with the system is actually solved by AI agents. Cool. So getting back into it, I did want to talk a little bit about how we have things configured now. There's a lot of different elements. Like I said, we've been building for a year, and we do want everyone to join us on this journey, right? Like we've been here on the bleeding edge. We've been putting together these pieces, and we really encourage everyone to find the parts that speak to you the most and what works best. But mainly for our challenge and everything that we're looking at here, we're going to have you interacting with a specific DAO and helping us get ready for launching this on mainnet. We're going to take you on the journey with us for putting the Spaces DAO live, which is going to be the first one in this new format. And we're going to have the token itself will be airdropped to participants so that you're able to test out proposals and go through the process with the goal of passing and achieving proposals that move the DAO forward, essentially. And we'll go into that in a little more detail, but I just wanted to give that overview before I talk about these different pieces here. And when we're looking at the GitHub, just to start there, we've got quite a few things going on as far as the services, right? So we have a front-end website, which is what you see here on the main site here. And then we also have a testnet version that we'll bring up. I think I got it. I forgot where I put it, but there it is. We have a testnet version that we're going to talk about and actually walk through some in the demo today. But this is the main site, and we'll see that the design is shifting a little bit as well. And that's all run in Next.js. So it's powered by stacks.js on the background, interacts with the blockchain data, the database. That's how we show and operate and do everything. Paired with this, we do have a backend that runs in Python. So the backend here used to be powered by Crew AI. We did actually end up migrating away from that. So you'll see that in some of the notes. We're using LangChain and LangGraph in the background. But this is where a lot of the AI magic happens in particular. We've done everything from analyzing individual tweets. And you know what, I'm just going to, let me back up and talk about that a little bit. So when we first looked at this concept of like what to do with the code, we have the front end, the back end, the contracts, all of these supporting services. But you have this element where every DAO is like essentially an idea, and that's where the concept behind prompted DAO kind of comes to life. Is like, if you had an idea, imagine being able to create a DAO for every single idea that you think of. Now, naturally, if these ideas are ones that others share, or like other people want to support, you're going to start building community and building effort so that people can work together to achieve the goals of the DAO. Well, this gives you that starting framework, from going from idea to something that everybody can participate in with like an equal start and chance, all the way through to it can evolve and it can grow, even beyond what we put here. It's not a limited system, but we are trying to bring certain functionality online to start with. Right. So with prompted DAO, you take an idea, you would mention this account, which again is not up at the moment, but it's coming up soon following the first one that we're going to put out there. But you would just mention the account and say like, hey, this is my idea. I want to build something around it. It's going to do some analysis to decide if it's worthy or not. And then if it does decide it's worthy, it'll go through the process to start kicking it off and actually creating that DAO. So you'll see a pre-launch contract, and then it'll get into how the DAO is activated and everything else.
I personally love this feature. It's currently it's off right now, so you won't be able to prompt on Twitter. But in a couple weeks, we'll turn it back on. It's cool. I mean, you could literally say anything. You could say, create a DAO that wants to annoy WoBuddy every day with funny jokes or something, and it'll literally prompt that into existence. Deploy 19 smart contracts. The token for that DAO immediately goes to a bonding curve and is trading, and the AI agents that are in the end controlled by people who have purchased the token and are using the agents will automatically go to work in pursuit of that DAO's mission. So we can kind of like hit certain benchmarks, and we have some community members that have, and I kid you not, they literally have 10,000 AI DAO ideas queued up in like a Google Doc right now. And these are some like high profile people. So the idea of AI DAOs being a big thing is going to be true very soon, just in terms of pure number of them. And what's interesting too about them is they're not the same as, say, a meme coin, where like if I launched a 10,000 meme coins, they'd all basically be worth nothing. If you launch 10,000 AI DAOs, you at least have the motor of intelligence that's operating in the background, trying to make forward progress on the benchmarks and mission of those respective DAOs. So there's some very interesting things that are going to come from this. And I think the community is going to use, when it's turned back on, the community is going to use prompted DAO to just get out their ideas. If you have an idea, you're like, you know what, I'm not going to work on this idea, but I'd love to just see it in the world. You prompt it, boom, it exists. You can participate by funding some token and have your agent just be adding proposals and voting every single day. And the cost of that intelligence is like 1/100,000th or 1/100,000th the cost of paying someone, a human, to do it. And oftentimes the outputs are far better than a human's output. So this kind of like decentralized autonomous intelligence we think it's going to be pretty big. And that's why we're building on Bitcoin. That's why we're making all this stuff very streamlined, so it's easy to participate and get out your own ideas. So I'll stop there, but I just wanted to make that comment on prompted DAO. It's probably one of our most popular things, and we'll turn it back on after this hackathon.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to bring it up for the same reason. I think this piece is often overlooked when we're building these type of technologies. Like, I can think of it like, wow, I have this template system and I have this cool setup for a DAO and everything else, but seeding it, creating those things is a big part of getting people to want to join and to want to participate. And the same for like a place to get those ideas out. Like you said, you know, I've had ideas where I'm like, man, I would love to build this, but I'm not going to have time to do it. I'm not going to go find a grant program and go through all these other steps. But if I just had a quick little outlet where I knew something would be created and then somebody could form around it, or I could even participate in it at that point, you know, and say like, okay, I created that one. I want my agent to at least be working in it, and we'll see who else we can pick up and what else we can do.
Yeah, I mean, I came up with 60 DAO ideas that I myself would like FOMO into. I'd be like, oh, I actually do want to be a part of this within like 45 minutes. Like, they're easy to come up with, and it's going to be a lot of fun too, because these things like come alive like immediately. So you're going to see the fruits of your ideas come into effect very, very quickly. And who knows, maybe this is like the age of the idea guy and the idea gal. You know, it's like, have a great idea, know what to put into the world, and see if it sticks, see if it lands. You might not even have to work for the idea. You just got to have the idea. So that's one of the innovations here, which is like pretty insane. And, you know, mind you, everyone watching this, a lot of this stuff works, a lot of the magic stuff works, but a lot of the stuff too, we're still on the bleeding edge and like working through stuff. So you're really, really early. This is like pioneering. You're pioneering at the convergence of AI and Bitcoin with these AI DAOs. So expect bugs, expect magic, but definitely stick with us. I think it'll pay off, just even in experience to be a part of this very early on. And we're glad that the folks who are listening are with us early on. Like, we really value that, and looking forward to working with you guys.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, and there is so much to learn, right? Like, we touch everything from front end to back end to AI to Bitcoin to stacks. Like, there's a lot of different elements going on, a lot of different pieces, some great team members that are working constantly to do this kind of stuff. So it's been really cool. And I actually see a question that may have come up. So someone mentioned they were interested in this idea of delegation of governance rights to an agent. Is this possible, and can this work both ways? I delegate to an agent and later remove the voting rights. Yes. So one of the design pieces that we're putting out there is we're collaborating with BitFlow Keepers, but having a smart contract or a smart wallet is really what helps with this, right? So you have a wallet where you, as the user, are deploying it. It is a smart contract that can hold the DAO funds. You are the only person who can withdraw from it. You can delegate for one person to be able to vote with it, and that would be setting up your agent. So we definitely have those, like, coming back to the way that smart contracts give us that code is law. We have some really neat ways that we can program in those pieces and to make participation easier. And it's all based on the building blocks. So to participate in a DAO, and I'll actually walk through some of the site here in just a sec, but to participate, you got to have the DAO's token. You can't create a proposal without it. You'll probably be putting some up as a bond anyway, so that if it doesn't pass, it's going to go to the treasury. There has to be that little bit of incentive for doing the work, but the other side of that is that the people are holding the token to make the proposals. People are using the token to vote on them. And when a proposal is passed, it's actually clarity code, so it's executed. So it's like this nice full circle of events that can actually make things happen in the DAO, and the agents are sort of that grease that keeps everything moving. Yeah. And on that note, it's probably best just to jump right into it, right? Like, let's talk a little bit about the DAOs. And let's show a little bit of what we've got going on here with the latest layout. So what I have up on the screen comes from our staging website. This is the testnet version of everything, kind of where we start with all of our adventures here. And I've pulled up the Faces DAO because this is the actual DAO that's going to be the first one on mainnet. So I should actually probably back up and intro the project a little bit, but there's this project called Bitcoin Faces. And the idea is, like, you can take any unique string And when we put that in, it's associated with the Bitcoin face. These things have about, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 different layers with like eight or 10 different options. So it ends up 4 billion combinations or something similar. We've mapped them to people's Stacks addresses, and we actually did one of the largest airdrops on the Stacks blockchain based around this project. So if you were active up to like a few months ago, you should have one of these in your wallet already that represents your Stacks address. And anytime that you put any string in here, you can get different faces. So there's a ton of different combinations, ton of cool things. The project started right around when inscriptions and ordinals started. So we thought it'd be a fun one to bring over and show off what this, what we can do on Bitcoin L2 with the smart contracts, with the DAO structure and everything else. So this DAO right here on testnet was actually created this morning. This is the first one for faces and exists here on testnet. So the main page that we're looking at is the main page for any DAO. Gives you the name, the image, which is based on the token image, and actually can be changed by the DAO through proposal. And then as well as the description and some basic details. So here we would see some more information on mainnet. We do miss out on some pricing info here on testnet. You can kind of see that between the view of the different ones here. Like if we were to pull up another one, you're going to see some additional information as far as some of that goes. But same idea. Oops. There we go. Okay. Same idea. This is the overview where you get a quick idea of what the DAO is going to be. And you get this big participate button, which we'll click here in just a minute. Before we jump into that, though, I did want to walk through some of these tabs and the different elements here that make up the DAO. So first one is what we're calling extensions. So as mentioned earlier, there's actually 21, I think is the number we're at right now. But for every idea, for every DAO that's deployed, when we use that terminology, 21 different smart contracts go out in the background.
All right, so this part's important. This part's important. So if you're watching the video, pay attention to this.
Yeah, this is the actual architecture that's happening on layer 2 here. So there's a bunch of different elements that go out when we deploy a DAO. There's some things related to how proposals are passed, what kind of actions it can complete, the token, the DEX, the pool, all of these different elements. And we'll kind of talk about each one. But they go all out at the same time, and it's a ton. It's going to be 21 contracts per DAO. They all interact and work together. And I think that number is just going to keep growing. And there's also, you have the ability to, like, let's say, I liked how this worked, but I want to disable it and I want to implement a new version. That is entirely possible within this structure as well through proposals. So some key components here when we're talking about it. Let me get into some of the terminology, and then we'll kind of talk about what some of these different groups of contracts do. All right, so we have, when we're talking about the DAO structure itself, there's 3 main terms that we're going to hear very often. One is the base DAO. So that is a contract that, let me see if I can find it right here. And this represents the, it's kind of like the DAO itself. And then every extension or proposal or anything else that's used with it is what gives it form. So that's why we call it the base. That's the idea around it. All it does is execute proposals and make sure that everything is done from the perspective of the DAO. And when I say from the perspective of the DAO, that's an important management element to these, because it's not me saying, let's withdraw something from the treasury. It's not you saying that, it's not somebody else. Like, we all have to agree on that through voting. And if we do, then the action happens. If we don't, then it doesn't. And it's that simple. But it's not any one person being able to designate or do that, which is what makes this so powerful. All right. So base DAO is the main engine. That's what runs our proposals. Then we have these things called extensions. So you'll see a few of these typically start with extensions on here. You have one for core proposals and action proposals. So that's our main way of voting. And there's 2 different buckets that those happen in. We have some for sending messages on chain, providing resources and accepting payments. So if you need like payment processing to know that this address paid for this resource, so I can give them access, like maybe in a 402 type sense or similar setup. There's pieces for that. We also have pieces for managing the treasury, managing the charter or the main mission of the DAO. So all the different elements that are there now not only get brought into existence when the idea comes about, but they are configurable. They can be changed by the members of the DAO, and these things can grow whatever direction that they need to go from here. Cool. So we've got base DAO as the main engine. We've got extensions as this ongoing functionality that we can turn on and off. And then we have this idea of proposals, with the first one here being our bootstrap. Proposals are more like one-time actions. We're like saying, hey, I would like to set up this new extension that gives me a new feature. Or I would like to make a one-time transfer from the treasury to this individual for the work they did. Or I want to create a new, what I would call a vault or a bank account, where this principal can withdraw this amount once a day until I turn it off. So you have like these cool little abilities that you can put through, but they're typically one-time changes, and we call those proposals. So those three elements make up the entire DAO and kind of make up the entire structure. You have your base that executes, your extensions that are like ongoing functionality, and your proposals that are like your one-time actions to complete something. And the proposals are where agents become really helpful with all this as well. Before I jump into how that works exactly, we're going to do a live demo, and fingers crossed all works as expected here, because those are always fun. But I want to go over some of the other tabs too. So you get the token holders here, and you're able to see who holds what, different distribution, average balance, and you see 80% in the treasury as expected. And then proposals. We don't have any yet, but when they start coming in, when we start talking about the history, and when we talk about our agent interacting with these different DAOs, then we want to make sure that, when we talk about interacting with different DAOs, we want to make sure that the history is very clearly viewable. So that's something that you have at the agent level. You can see its history. At the DAO level, you can see the proposal history. A lot of these elements will bleed and tie together to kind of help you with that experience. Yeah. But that's the overview for DAOs and kind of what you see on these pages.
So is this going to work when you try it?
Oh boy. That's the exciting part. I'm like, what else can I talk about before I go do this?
Yeah, drum roll, drum roll.
All right. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the process, and we can do that as we're walking through this. But when I go to participate in the DAO, you get a nice little pop-up here that, uh-oh, did I break something already? Nope, just because I had to refresh. Okay. So when I click participate, this is already focused on this DAO, and we have some helpful prompts to kind of get you an idea of not only what these agents can do, but sometimes the formatting and ways to help them get to the same result every time. So if you've worked with AI like this before, especially agentic processes, they can be a little flaky sometimes. Sometimes they decide good, sometimes they decide bad. Sometimes they don't decide the same thing over and over again. So you try to account for a lot of that in these processes, and sometimes just in the words we use in the prompting. When we were talking about the DAOs getting created, we said 80% of the token supply goes to the treasury, 20% goes to a DEX. It's immediately available for trading, starting on a bonding curve. And once that happens, it kicks off the same for everybody. So that's pretty cool. So for me to say, I want to interact with the Faces DAO, then I can choose, I got to do a few things to get that started. So the first one is actually making sure that I have stacks and SBTC, because these DAOs, they're actually starting on, not 99% sure, but we want them to start on L1 as runes, and then bridge over to stacks to show off this functionality with the smart contract. And we'll have an update coming on that piece in particular. But once we're in the smart contract land and we're doing things on stacks, you do need stacks. So in this case, testnet stacks, for being able to send transactions, and then you need SBTC to be able to interact with the DAOs. We're working on some ways to make that simpler, and we're going to have some answers to that as we go along, but that's kind of the status of where it's at now. Cool. So let's start out just by finding out a little more information. What is the wallet balance of my agent? Because I want to know, I can't remember if I bought Faces DAO yet or not. So it's going to do some thinking. It's going to do some tool running. And it's going to give me a breakdown. Looks like, yeah, I do have some of that Faces token already. If I did not, then I could use something like this where it says, hey, buy
Jarvis, buy me some Faces.
Yep.
Let's see.
All right, and then it's gonna think about it, and then I'm gonna break it right here on the live.
Possibly. You want to inspect and see if it's, or is it working?
Yeah, there it goes. It'll just take
There
this
you go.
time. Cool. So it's going to try to look it up as a SIP 10. It did not know what to look at it for. Oh, no, it got it. There we go. And then it's going all over the place with the tools. Nope. Well, and this is part of what we're working on, these flows. And you know what? It's actually landing on the last tool, which was perfect, but it didn't carry over the correct terms to call it. So the expected outcome here would be like, hey, I want to buy 100 sats of Faces. It's going to go ahead and use this factory execute buy. It's going to put the balance into the wallet. The other 9 times I did it, it came out fine. So go figure. But hey, we're here, we're live, we're doing this. Let's keep going. So cool. Once we've gotten the DAO's token, so whether that's through the idea of like an airdrop, which we want to do to people after we launch this DAO, or whether you go to the DEX and you purchase it, just a decentralized, you make a transaction, you can have some, or your agent does the same, putting it in the vault contract. Once we have that token, we now have the ability to propose things in the DAO. And proposals cover all the different actions that we can do. And we have a bunch that are built in already. So I think the documentation probably had a really more comprehensive list than anything else. But let's take a look at the action proposals, as these are the first ones that people will interact with and use as we're bringing these online. But to back up, you have 2 types of proposals with these DAOs that are powered by extensions, as I mentioned earlier. So the first type are these action proposals. These are predefined actions. They can't just do anything. It's not arbitrary code or anything else. We know exactly what they're going to do. Particularly the one we're going to interact with is we want to send a message on behalf of the DAO and see what happens with that. And actually, let's try that. So let's see.
So basically, you're gonna submit a proposal for a message that is put on chain on behalf of the DAO only once it's been voted on and has a quorum and a certain percentage of yes votes from the other DAO members. They're like, yes, we agree with this message representing all of us. Thank you. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yes. So what I'm going to do is, oh, no, not that one.
And everyone in the hackathon who's participating is likely to get some airdrop Faces coin too. So people are going to be coming in with enough coin to participate. They can come empty-handed and we'll fund them, right?
Yeah. So if we airdrop it to people, that gives them the ability to make proposals. There's no minimum balance at this time. And like I mentioned, we might go to a bonding type proposal in the future, but really it's about getting it operational first and getting this engine building. So what I did here is I went ahead in the chat and I just said, okay, I want you to use the tool here to send a message. And it looks like it didn't fully understand my message there, but I would like to really push through one of these. There we go. It was trying. Okay, so let's say this. We're going to give it one more hint, actually. So we're going to say using our action proposals v2 contract. Okay, So what we're asking the AI to do now is we're saying like, hey, here's where you can send a proposal so people can vote on it. I want you to choose what the proposal is and then go ahead and call the correct tool. And it's still running into an unknown error. All right, well, it's fun with these things that sometimes we get to fight with them a little bit. And let's go ahead and run that. I want to submit one in the background here because this is kind of a cool way to see how these different pieces work together.
So we'll get this all smoothed out this week, and we won't have this issue when it comes. Well, less likely to have this issue when it comes time for mainnet. This is like truly bleeding edge stuff. So, like I said, expect some errors. Rafa says, "Let him switch to bun." So, yeah, I think Will Buddy's gonna launch us in the back end.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and send that now. But, it's funny. So what we're talking about there is, when we developed the tools for these different agents, we actually created them in TypeScript because that's what a lot of the blockchain stuff is in for stacks.js. So we have TypeScript scripts that do a whole ton of different things on the blockchain that achieve these goals. And then we wrap those and we give those tools over to agents who have their own wallet, their own ability to create transactions. Like the goal there is to make it an actual autonomous entity that we interact with and further use smart contracts to define whatever logic we want it to follow. Awesome. So I'm going to do some type in here for just a minute. I want to get the correct proposal out. Okay, and we'll include a nice little message that I think we can connect back with others. Okay, cool. So that went through, our transaction succeeded. So what we should have seen when we're looking, ooh, and I got to show a little bit of that too. Take you on the journey with me here. Okay. So the transaction that I just sent in is right here. We are proposing the action. So if you look, that's in our action proposals contract for faces. You could match this to the information on the UI if you wanted to see, oh, is that the right extension? Is that the right name? Is that something else? And then down here, you can see what we're doing. So we're saying, hey, this is the contract I want to use as my action. That's predefined. And this is what I want to say. And, it's a real easy to read, right? We've got these clarity, they're serialized, buffered. Basically, we took all the elements and turned it into a simple string that we can pass back and forth. And the parameters here are listed in this funny format because we can actually use this same structure for passing a string or passing a principal or passing another clarity type. They're all kind of put back into this serialized text format. So that's pretty interesting way to work around it. But the idea is that we created the proposal, we kicked things off. Now this exists except for, what did I do now? Insufficient balance. So the account I sent from didn't have any token, and that's all right because we can fix that too. Just give me a minute here.
While Will Bodie's working on this, I'm going to tell you all about my religion.
Dive right in. That sounds great. Oh man, I got two commands over the top of each other here. Come on. It's like, hey, you must be live on stream right now, right? Okay, awesome. So we have another transaction out, and what that one's going to do, it's actually from the same address that deployed it here. So funny thing, I went to propose that action, and the reason it failed is because I didn't have the token. This is the account that deployed the token. So that goes to show you how the fair piece of it works. And we should see this transaction ID here. Okay. Yep, so there's our buy. Our buy was confirmed. We spent our SBTC. We got our faces. It printed out our info, which is good. So now that we have the token, if we resend our message, this one should definitely go through.
Rafa
While we're
says
awesome. Yeah, so if we look at pending, there's our proposed action. And same, just to walk through and kind of show real quick too, these are all the contracts that go out with a DAO. So you've got the faces set up for factory tokens. You've got a BitFlow, decentralized BitFlow pool that gets registered once the DEX hits a certain target. So I think it's about 3,500 or so. Like there's a number set aside in the DEX where it's like as it grows big enough, it'll actually graduate to a BitFlow pool and register it. Then you have the base DAO, the various extensions. We have the action extensions, which are the specific ones, like this one right here that we're calling to send a message. And then we have the construction, the main proposal and construct call that happened. But I took so long to say all that our proposal should already be live. Looks good. Looks like it landed about a minute ago. And the reason I wanted to jump in and send that now, even though I was going to talk a little bit more about the proposals and the process, is that it takes a few minutes to get through everything, even on testnet. So what we have is the start and end block are based on Bitcoin blocks. And on mainnet, they're going to run for longer periods. But here on testnet, we still have a 5-block. We have a 1-block delay before we can vote. And we have a 5-block window that we can vote during. So we'll kind of keep an eye on this as we're going through the other pieces here and finishing up. So cool. If I come back to the interface and we can see, let's see, we were in our participate chat and we'll still try voting with our agent once that's up, but we need that to finish out. In the case of, the documentation, that's where I wanted to take everybody back to. That's right. Okay, so one key point are action proposals versus core proposals. And one of the main differences between them is time, and another one is approval threshold. So an action proposal, we already know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to do something that we've already specified. It can be a little easier to do because we know it's not going to randomly throw us off with some arbitrary code. So the action proposals have a 66% approval threshold. So 66% of the votes have to be yes, and at least 15% of the liquid supply has to participate. When I say liquid supply, that's anything that's not in the treasury, DEX, or pool, as those are contracts that can't actually vote or do anything. So anything else that's held by the individuals that have bought from the DEX becomes the quorum requirement, or that's where we meet the 15%. So both of those kind of kick off right at the beginning. Action proposals are available right away. And if they are not executed in the same amount of time that you vote for them, which for action proposals, it's, I'll go through the timeline next, but they do expire is the point that I'm getting to. So we have a sort of a timeline that happens when you create a proposal. There's a little bit of a delay before you can vote on it. Voting happens for a specified voting period. Then there's a little bit of a delay before you can execute it. That way people can evaluate what's going to happen before it catches anybody off guard. And then you have a window where execution is allowed. So every proposal goes through this little timeline. And the only thing that changes are some of the numbers. When we're talking about action proposals on mainnet, they have a 1-day delay, a 2-day voting period, 1-day delay, 2-day execution period. And when we're talking about the core proposals, that jumps up to 3 days for each. So you've got 3-day delay, 3-day voting, 3-day delay, and then 3-day execution period. So these two are really the main engines for anything that happens within the DAO. And then when we're going from action proposals to core proposals, those require a much higher threshold of 90%, and they require more quorum, at least 25%. And they actually can't be submitted within the first few days either. So those three things help to get the liquidity out there, to get things moving around, and to give people the chance to democratize the idea. And same idea that proposals expire. So what we can do with those proposals are a lot of different things. The action proposals are simpler ones. We can add a resource, which means somebody can pay for it. We can allow assets in the treasury, send a message from the DAO, set up this bank account or vault with some specific settings. So it's like kind of scripted instead of being open to anything. And each of those action proposals only requires a single transaction. So they're very easy to work with. They don't require deploying any additional contracts or anything funky. The core proposals are a little more complicated, and rightfully so, because they are also incredibly powerful. So a core proposal can do just about anything. It's actually arbitrary clarity code. And we've written a whole ton of examples based on the extensions that we have. So when you have something like the treasury or this bank account, or you have the messaging, you're going to protect certain functions so that they can only happen within the context of the DAO. So you have that like shared energy towards something. And these are the initial examples based on every extension that we have. So if there's a protected function, here's how you can call it. And then if you were to add new contracts or change anything different, you would actually do that through core proposals as well. And you can chain these actions together. So while we're looking at little one-off configuration changes or the things that happen in the contracts, they become building blocks that you can assemble into something much more worthwhile. So those are kind of a broad overview to look at the different elements of proposals that we have, and some key points and differences that are outlined here in the docs and as well on the website. Cool. So let's check on our proposal. So we put this one out there. We said propose action. Start block is 21434, because there's not that many blocks on this testnet. And we're at 21435, which means we should be able to vote. Excellent. So the info we need to vote is the proposal ID there. Cool. Yes on proposal ID 1 in the faces DAO. And then we're going to steal this right here. That way we give it a little more context to what we're trying to do. All right, so we're going to say, hey, can you vote yes on this proposal? Another way this could happen in the background as well is the action of creating a proposal could fire off an event. The event could then wake up the agent to say, hey, take a look, make a vote. And we could inform our agents to work off of the description and off of our own input, so that this becomes like a truly automated system. And I think every step that we take is going to be getting closer to that goal. All right, so for our live demo try here, it's not happy with it. But just like we were talking about before, sometimes we got to work around it and do something a little different. So let's go ahead and make the vote in the command line here. So give me just a second. All right, so to vote on proposal, we got to know the proposal's contract. And there we go. So our transaction is out. So then what the agent's going to do in the background here is like we're going to move on from proposing the action to the 5-block period where people can vote on it. And so this vote, wow, as fast as I sent it, it's already confirmed. Love it when that happens. You can see the vote counts based on your balance at the block height the proposal was created. So it is a snapshot. And it tracks who called it, who voted, what they voted on. So all of that information is available in the proposal's contract. So all that's together as well. And this vote here would maybe we have it spread out, so I don't know if it's enough to pass just yet. We'd have to dig into the contract has some functions to help with that. But the idea being, and also looking at our time, we probably won't have time to finish out completely, but once 4 more Bitcoin blocks pass, we'd be able to conclude this proposal. And as long as the threshold and the quorum are met, which are specified here in the code, As long as those numbers are correct and everything worked, then it will send a message on behalf of the DAO. We actually have a field in the sending. When you send a message, there's a field that says is from DAO, and you cannot set that true unless you're using the context of the DAO. So just the same way that we protect being able to move funds in the treasury, we protect this little messaging function just to show as an example. And when we use it, we can also link some other things to it, which is pretty cool. So you'll see this Faces account here, Faces AIBTC, and it's actually automated to where when we pass that proposal and we conclude it, something gets posted and goes live. So what you see here are 2 messages that came directly on chain from our testing last night.
That's awesome.
And this is the system that we're putting together to bring live on mainnet with the Faces.
So the DAO via voted on these messages. The testnet.
Yeah, the testnet DAO voted on these messages. These were not just sent by the account or anything else. And you can back that up by checking those on chain, which is pretty cool too. So there's like any DAO will have this normal flow that they can initiate that happens purely by the on-chain actions. And we want to respond to what's on chain wherever possible.
Well, I, for one, welcome our AI overlords.
Me too.
No, I'm kidding. But
so it's gonna get fun, and it's gonna get fun fast. You know, I see a lot of this. When we were putting together this presentation, one thing that really stuck out to me is a lot of what we're doing today was not possible a year ago. I can tell you that these agents were not smart at all. I used to call them dumb brains all the time, and they're getting better rapidly. So building on this edge, you know, and I'm really looking at these pieces and getting a big project like this to work all together. It's got a lot of rewarding elements to it, and just really want to challenge everyone. So the goal that we want for people in the hackathon and participating and everything else is like we really want to push the mission of this Faces DAO to make Bitcoin Faces the top profile picture among Bitcoin users. So we're going to put that out there, and we want people to submit proposals that are going to help this mission, you know, starting with something as simple as sending messages that we all agree on, and also getting familiar with that process. You know, I walked through it fairly manually today. It's going to be a lot easier when things work on the website, but getting used to that, this is what a proposal is, this is what they do when they execute. Those are all key pieces to how this works. And also, there's a lot of opportunities to build more primitives or even better elements than what we have currently, you know, between the tooling, the actual backend that runs the infrastructure, the front end that you see on the website, a lot of different areas to play and contribute and to be a part of this. So I'll kind of pause there. If any of this is like really jumped out at you, or, you know, like called you, or you're like, this is the thing you want to work on, we're going to be in that Telegram group. We're looking forward to hearing from everybody. We want you to stay engaged, stay involved, and we'll be posting more updates. Definitely follow along on X as well. So just a reminder, that's x.com AIBTC dev. So we've got everything up there, and you'll see the website. And yeah. I think if there's any last minute stuff I want to share here before we close it out.
Yeah, so hackathon participants will get a Faces airdrop on Monday. That's the goal. That's when the proposal challenge kicks off. So folks are going to be participating in the DAO itself, using their coins as, like, you know, proof of hodl, and to propose things for the DAO. And we'll start off with on-chain messages that get pushed to Twitter. We'll move on to things like having like Bitcoin Faces.xyz accept SBTC as payment and to earn revenue for the DAO. We'll do stuff like that, and we'll grow from there. I think this is like a really smart community, and the members of this hackathon are going to have their own ideas. We want to encourage them. We'll put up, if you have ideas for bounties, we'll fund them. Like, if they're cool ideas, we'll fund them. Like, just get involved in this hackathon and let's make it happen. Like, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be on the cutting edge. Nowhere else are you going to experience the bleeding edge as much as you're going to experience this on the internet. Like, let's fucking go. Let's do it.
Yep. Let's get ready. We're going to be buying tokens, creating proposals, and doing all sorts of fun stuff on the platform here. So excited to get everyone involved. We really want to see who wants to come out and be a part of this starting Monday. And yeah, just follow up. We've got all the resources up. We'd love to hear from you and get involved. Like, let's do this. I'm ready.
Cool. We have a question. Did you answer this question? What are the costs associated with LLMs? Right now, we're just allowing the LLMs to be free for the users. We're figuring out a pricing model. Perhaps, yeah. So we do have APIs you can swap out. You can swap out your own AI if you'd like. We provide AI, like cloud AI, you can use open source models if you want, but we kind of just supply the AI. So I think we have open AI API calls that we use and things like that. Maybe in the future, the DAOs pay for AI compute on behalf of its users, something like that. But we're still sort of sorting out what's the best route. So we're open to input there. But your AI is just going to work out of the box. You don't have to pay for it.
Yep. Yeah. And our goal from the beginning was really to support whatever AI you want to bring to the software, right? Like if you're cloning the backend, if you're going through everything to run what we're running here, that option is available to you. I'm a fan at this point of Open Router over OpenAI, because then you can choose some different things if you want to have a different model for a different purpose or anything else. Yeah, there's a ton of options there, but definitely something to keep in mind. And then when it comes to charging, I would love to see us use our own payment processing resource invoice type stuff for that too. So I think we can definitely get to that point. So,
well, you're saying the DAOs can pay us in SPTC and their own AI DAO coin? Oh my God, it'd be phenomenal.
Right, and then we just know it, because we would just look on chain. You're not waiting for some database to tell you, hey, that's paid for.
Yeah, totally.
It's got a lot of potential. I can't wait to see what it turns into and everything else. And I know we're going a little bit over here. I would actually like to see if I can conclude that proposal just before we jump off, but it might be a little too early. We talked for a bit though, so let me see. Take an extra minute. I'm spelling wrong. Oh, I forgot an O. Little things on the command line that make them super fun, right? Okay, so that's what we want to run, and we wanted to run our messaging proposal. So that's the one we got to tell it. Okay, so I've sent a transaction out to kind of close things out here. And what we'll do is, so we had our vote on the proposal. I went ahead and threw one out there to conclude the proposal, which I'm still guessing we're going to be a little early, but I figure I'll give it a shot before we close out. And let's see, that should have confirmed by now. Yep, we failed. Why did we fail? 1004. What's a 1004? Voting is still active. So there you go. There's a good example of how when we move at base chain speeds, sometimes they can feel a little slow, even though we're moving much faster than you would even in a traditional environment. You know, waiting another 10 minutes for this feels like forever, but days to make decisions is typical. But overall, that's the flow, right? You can, as a token holder of a DAO, you can propose things that we all do together. You can vote on them, and if everybody agrees, those things happen. And that is just an amazing little recipe to create some more things. We want to get everybody involved with that, building on top of that, working alongside us. So definitely any questions, any follow-up, please jump into that Telegram. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you, everyone, for making the time. And thank you to the organizers for giving us the chance to run this. I'm so excited. Let's see what happens next.
Yeah, once we get the hang of this with the gang, anyone who's watching this, and I mean literally anyone, can come up with their own AI DAO and literally just prompt it into existence, and you'll be able to have your own community that works toward mission. I just think that is like so incredible. So let's stay on our feet and keep things moving safely but quickly, and let's make this happen. We're excited. We'll see you in the Telegram. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the Telegram group for everyone in the hackathon, just in general, if you're checking us out, we do have a Discord that you're welcome to jump in as well. Links are up there on the main website and the documentation website, all around. But just look for AIBTC. You'll find us everywhere. We're ready to do this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.